Hey everyone, I have been playing through The Witcher 3 lately and have been loving it. With the upcoming Cyberpunk 2077 DLC this summer, I've been on a bit of a CD Projekt Red grind. As I'm playing through these games, I was trying to figure out what makes them special. There are a lot of things, like the world building, in-depth mechanics, and incredible storytelling, but the one thing that really stands out to me is the ability to make decisions. The option to choose certain dialogue or actions gives this sense of freedom and prompts replayability to see alternate endings. All of that is incredible, so why, at the end of the day, do I feel like my choices don't ultimately matter? I feel like this tiny speck of dust in an infinite universe who will soon be forgotten in the sands of time. Oops, kind of drifted into an existential crisis there. But my point remains, we have all of these options to make choices and to feel like we are shaping the story in the game, yet I always feel as though the story isn't truly affected by these decisions. And why is that? Do we not have the tech available to craft an ever-expanding story? Are developers just lazy?
Here you go. It's alphabet soup. I made it special.
Maybe the developers are just too overly ambitious. Or maybe we're being marketed towards this false sense of free will in gaming where our choices affect the story and then are ultimately disappointed when that isn't actually the case. To be honest with you guys, I have no idea. But I do have some theories as to why decision making in video games ultimately feels underwhelming. First and foremost, even though we got these shiny new consoles with beefed up hardware, I still don't think it's quite possible to create a game where your decisions truly matter. And that's not really a fault of the game developers. No, of course not. I think this has more to do with the state of the industry today. A lot of gamers want this big, sprawling experience with unique moments and decisions that alter the way a story is told. Then, when we do get a game with some of these features, maybe not all of them, but some of these features, the games end up being 100 gigabytes plus. It takes a lot of storage to play out these big games with detailed assets and massive open worlds. Even though SSD technology has made these intensive games more playable, it's still quite a bit of processing to go through, not to mention filling up your hard drive very quickly. For example, let's look at Mortal Kombat 11. It's a fairly linear fighting game with a story that is about 6 hours in length. So for just the base game with the base story, the game size is 18.7 gigabytes. Or you can download the story with 4K assets for 36.9 gigabytes. This is for a 6-hour long linear fighting game. Now, picture this. The developers create a game with multiple choices throughout that will alter how your story plays. Let's use Mortal Kombat 11's file sizes for comparison. Say the developer wants to create a game where your choices truly affect and change the narrative. Just for fun, let's say there are 4 completely different storylines. Now, this game is still 6 hours long, depending on the story you choose, but the file size could be up to 4 times larger. So now the devs are putting in 4 times the work for a game that's length is barely a drop in the bucket compared to modern Assassin's Creed titles. And if this game is 4K, we're looking at a 6-hour long story that is almost 150 gigabytes. I mean, yes, you can replay these games and theoretically get a completely different experience each time, but I feel like a lot of casuals out there might not want to shuck out $70 and 150 gigabytes for a 6-hour game. Then again, maybe I'm completely wrong. If the story is truly unique each time, then yeah, that would definitely be worth it, but I just don't really see it playing out that way, which brings me to my next point. Look, I'm not saying that CD Projekt Red was trying to manipulate consumers into buying into their game promises, but I do think that their description of the game was a bit too much. I'm sure that they wanted to create this super in-depth, detailed, not broken game world with story decisions that mattered, but they ultimately fell way short of that by the time Cyberpunk 2077 finally released. And yeah, that launch sucked booty, but gaming companies do that all the time. Whether or not it's on purpose could be debated, but you can't argue the fact that a ton of games promise all of these sweet features that often don't end up coming to fruition. I'm sure that while these devs are in the planning and even actual development of the game, they believe that they can create this vision they have, but it often doesn't work out that way. And it seems as if the first thing to get tossed out the window is the decision making. Some games tout that they have story-altering decisions, but when you actually play through the game, these decisions are often really lame or just simply inconsequential. So, due to our expectations, while we're playing through these games, we look forward to these decisions to see how that changes our experience, just to find out that the differences from other branching narratives are pretty small and pointless. I love this quote from Tina Amini of Mashable. She says that the illusion of choice inspires all sorts of ideas and priorities, hopes and dreams, and when they never come to fruition, it feels like a missed opportunity. Obviously, making a game is difficult. Making a game with innovative branching storytelling is even more difficult. And then on top of that, making that game actually good, basically impossible. Let me make this clear. I'm not ranting about actual devs. When I say developer, I'm mostly talking about the scumbag parent companies that are making the team advertise their product in a certain way. I know a lot of these game developers truly want to make the best product possible, and I'm sure the publisher just wants to push as many sales as possible, resulting in some advertising that probably doesn't convey the game in an honest light. I would love to see a game out there that really implements game-changing choices with engaging gameplay, but it seems as though that's just too tall of an order with the current state of the industry. Even besides all the technical and development issues that we just talked about, there is still one more reason why I believe that your choices don't ultimately matter in video games. A lot of times when a developer touts that their game will have decision making, it usually has to deal with how the story plays out. This is cool because it means everyone can have a somewhat unique experience and promotes replayability. In theory, even just one simple change in the beginning will give you a completely different story than someone else. The problem with this, I believe, is that the overall narrative experience is weakened by having so many different options. For example, think of the new God of War games. Those are some of the most incredible stories that I have ever experienced, and honestly, I'm so glad that there weren't any decision-making options in that game. Because of it, I share the same experience as everyone else. Everyone knows exactly what I'm talking about when I say, oh, wasn't that badass when Kratos punched that dude's head off, or I don't know. There's a lot that happened in that game. I don't want to spoil anything. But people can relate immediately to what I'm talking about, and I think that helps drive online discourse for their game. By having branching narratives, the fanbase can become segmented, and I think that takes away from the overall experience. I honestly believe that part of what makes games like God of War or Spider-Man or A Plague Tale great is that everyone shares the same narrative. Now, there are exceptions to this. The best one I can think of is Red Dead Redemption 2. While there are choices in the game that actually do affect how your story unfolds, just about everyone will hit the major story beats that the devs want them to. So, although I think RDR2 is a freaking masterpiece that deserves a next-gen update, it kind of boils down to these decisions ultimately amounting to nothing. To bring this back to the beginning of the video, these choices, while are great in theory and sometimes do give a unique experience depending on what you do, feel kind of empty. You make these decisions, but you still end up at the same event in the end. They're just colorful distractions sprinkled throughout the game to make you feel like you're actually in control. So even though I love the idea of story-altering decisions, I understand why this is a pretty difficult feat to pull off. I think that games are often most successful when they put the narrative in the hands of the player, letting them pave their own story. I'm talking about games like Breath of the Wild or The Witcher 3. The main plot is there, yes, but everything else is for the player to decide. These might not be traditional story-changing decisions, but they do end up creating different experiences for people depending on how they decide to play the game. Does that make any sense? What are your guys' thoughts on all this? Is there a game out there that does a really good job with branching narratives? I know The Quarry and Until Dawn are like top-notch titles that implement this feature, but I'm curious to see if there are any more out there that I just don't know about. Maybe as technology improves and devs experiment more with game design, we'll get something truly unique with story-altering decision making. To be honest, I didn't do too much research into this topic, so I could be missing some key info here. If there's any insights you guys would like to share, please let me know in the comments. Thank you guys again for watching. I appreciate you as always, and I will catch you on the next one.